How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today we are looking at Palantir. So Palantir has done really well over the last couple months, going from about $17 up to $28 in just about 2 months. Now they did have their earnings. We do want to talk about that. They do have their earnings coming up in a few months, and we do have to take a look at some of the price action and some of the news coming out of Palantir here recently. Now, my name's Sam. I'm coming over from the channel My Financial Friend. I come here once a week on the TipRanks channel and talk about growth stocks. We actually talked about a stock 2 weeks ago that's doing extremely well. I talked about 3 stocks you need to know about now, and the stock that we talked about was Matterport, the first one up, and it is around $21 today from $17 just 2 weeks ago. So a lot of growth has happened with Matterport, and it's one that you should definitely put on your list. Actually, if you guys want, I will put this on the end screen so you can go back and take a look at Matterport and what I had to say about it just a few weeks ago. Now, if you guys like any of the tools in this video, you can check out the links down below to TipRanks. All the different stuff that we use on TipRanks is going to be in the description of this video, and you can get an unfair advantage with TipRanks Premium down there. So let's get started. Palantir was just about $18 on May 12th. Now, it actually fell a little bit more than this in the pre-market. I actually picked up some shares in the $17 range, which was actually a steal in my opinion, but we have seen it go all the way up to the $26 mark and then back down to $21, and now we're back at $28, up 4% here today. Now, let's take a look at Palantir and where it has been recently, because honestly, a lot of the growth stocks have kind of been trading sideways over the last couple months, but Palantir's been up and to the right. So what is happening with Palantir? Well, I will say there are some people that still are very bearish. Even though Palantir is moving up, there are still some people that are bearish. For example, they recently announced that they had 14 SPAC investments, and a lot of people think that they are actually buying their revenue. So they think that because they are just buying part of these SPACs, that they are buying revenue, and the revenue that you see coming from Palantir isn't really from them. However, I will say that this only accounts for a very small percent of the revenue, only about $3 million as of the last quarter, which is about 1% of their revenue. Now, there are some people that don't like Palantir either because they think it's too overvalued, or they think that too much of their revenue is coming from the US government, but they have been growing their US commercial revenue about 90%, which is a significant amount. Their overall revenue grew 49% year over year, which is very significant too. If you look at some of the top owners in Palantir, we have Vanguard, which owns about 5% of the whole company. We have BlackRock, which owns about 3%. ARK Invest is the next largest investor. We also have Morgan Stanley on here too. So there are a lot of big names that own Palantir. Now, over the last couple quarters, they have been destroying earnings per share and revenue estimates. You can see all green. That's always a good sign when they are beating expectations. And that's quite impressive because they have a very high growth rate. If you just look quarter over quarter, you see that they have about a 10% growth rate every single quarter, which is very significant. Now, they recently raised guidance. So adjusted free cash flow is in excess of 300 million, up from in excess of 150 million. Also, they are still providing their guidance where they expect 30% or greater revenue growth from 2021 through 2025. Now, this is quite good because usually if a company says this, they actually want to beat those estimates, because if they come in underneath, that is usually not a good sign for investors, and a lot of investors would sell off the stock if that were to happen. Now, with that being said, if they get 30% revenue growth for 5 years, that's $7.6 billion worth of revenue, and it is a very high margin business. With that being said, though, they have been diversifying their revenue a little bit, like we talked about, by buying some different SPACs. They actually partnered with one of the SPACs that they are investing in, and that's BlackSky, and that is an interesting relationship. BlackSky is into spatial intelligence and monitoring from the sky, so it's kind of like a Big Brother type company. It's a real interesting one if you haven't looked at it, and they just went through with their SPAC merger. So they are diversifying their revenue. I think what they're doing is they are creating synergistic relationships with some of these young, quick moving companies. That being said, they are also diversifying their money a little bit. So they stockpiled $51 million in gold bars earlier last month, and they have also start to talk about acquiring some cryptocurrencies. So they are accepting cryptocurrencies as payment. And they said about 4 months ago that they're open to putting cryptocurrencies on their balance sheet. Now, it's going to be fascinating to see whether they've done that this last quarter, because if they bought $51 million worth of gold bars, it would not be out of the question to think that they might buy $50 million or $100 million, $200 million worth of Bitcoin to put on their balance sheet. They say that they have to be prepared for a future with more black swan events. I think after 2020, with COVID, I think they really realized that they want to be in a position of strength if something were to happen in the future. And with everything they see and all the stuff behind the scenes, they probably know a lot more than we do, since they're working with the government in a variety of ways. They're probably trying to just cover their bases, because remember, they do have a lot of cash. So they have about $2.34 billion as of last quarter. So they are diversifying, but this is still just a small portion of their available cash. When you think $50 million, that is only about 2% of their available cash. But like I said, it will be interesting to see if they are actually stockpiling Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They said that they would accept Bitcoin, but no one's paid for it, for their services yet in Bitcoin. But it is going to be fascinating to watch. So I just wanted to bring you an update on Palantir. Besides that, there's not a lot of news recently. You can just see some big companies most likely purchasing Palantir, because you don't get volume that is like this. You don't see a volume spike like this from retail traders all of a sudden just one day wanting to buy. Everyone that I know too that's been in Palantir has been in for months. Honestly, there are some people obviously that have gotten in recently, but 190 million volume is not happening from a bunch of retail traders deciding today's the day. Let me know what you guys think about this down below. Again, if you guys want to check out Palantir on TipRanks, you can. You can check out the stock analysis. You can see what analysts are saying. They do say there's a 15% downside. You can check out all the latest news and what insiders are doing down below. You can check out the links. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for hitting the like button and the subscribe button on our road to 30,000 subscribers, and I will see you in the next video.